Yo, what's good everyone? Thank you for tuning in to today's video. As you can tell by the title, we are taking a look at the recently released New Balance 5740 in the Grey Day colourway. Now, before we get into all of that, I want to welcome back any of my returning subscribers, and if you are new around here, my name is Aidan, and on this channel we do release brand new sneaker content just like this each and every week, so do make sure to smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. Also, make sure that bell notification is switched on so you never miss a video. And with all that aside, if we now just go ahead and get into the intro. So first things first, before we dive into the shoes, let's just take a quick look at the shoe box. Now, this is the very first pair of New Balances I've ever owned, ever done a review on, or even had in hand, so I'm very much new to New Balance as a brand. This is the very first time I'm seeing any of their shoe boxes as well. I'm not sure if this is standard for them or if this is just specific to the 5740. But the box itself is pretty clean and simple, so we have this really dark grey across the top, and in the centre we do have that silver New Balance branding. If we then take a look at the label, which reads M5740TA, USA 9.5D, which is a UK size 9, or a 43 if you are in Euro sizing. Pretty interesting size label, doesn't actually make much of a reference to the actual shoes, colourway. All it actually says is that it's medium moyen. Not sure if that means anything to anybody, but you didn't come for the box, so if we just go ahead and jump straight into the shoes. And here we have it, in hand we have the New Balance 5740 in the Grey Day colourway. Now, for those of you that are watching this video that don't already know, this shoe officially released for the very first time on May 15th for New Balance's Grey Day. This was a shoe that I was definitely looking at picking up for quite a while. I've been looking at New Balance as a brand for like the last year. None of the shoes have really ever caught my eye enough to actually want to buy it, I'm going to be completely honest, but the more I've actually seen them and the more reviews I've watched on New Balance in general, the more I've kind of just really wanted to pick a shoe up. This is definitely the very first colourway I thought I wanted for my personal collection, and it was actually a really easy cop for me. As I mentioned, this released on May 15th, which was the same day that those Kobe Hall of Fames released, as well as the Jordan 1 Shadow 2.0s. Now, because a lot of people's attention were kind of focused on those releases, this was relatively easy to get if you actually wanted it. Don't get me wrong, I lost on all my raffles, but somehow I did actually manage to get these on Foot Patrol, I think 2 or 3 hours after release. So if we just go ahead and actually jump straight into the shoe. Now, on the underlay, we do actually have this mesh material, which is then overlaid with lots of different shades of suede and nubuck right the way throughout the upper. So if we start off with the actual toe box of the shoe, as you can see on the toe box, we do have this really nice dark grey nubuck with the perforations, which is pretty standard for a lot of shoes these days. Now, the quality of nubuck is pretty good, I'll be honest. It feels really nice. Nothing too premium, but pretty standard for what I'd expect for a £120 shoe. Now, it also does have on the actual toe box itself a little pop of 3M towards the top and around the edges. I'm a huge fan of 3M, so I really did like that detail. It wasn't something that was immediately noticeable until I actually took the shoe out of the box and started to do some up-close looks, but really I'm a big fan of that. And then wrapping right the way around the toe, we do actually have this really nice creamy suede, which wraps right the way around the toe box. Now, I'll be honest, I wasn't sure if maybe this was like a really tonal grey or if it's cream, so just for the purpose of the video, I'm going to call it like a kind of like a creamy suede. Now, it is a short-haired suede, and it does differ from the right shoe to the left shoe, but I'll get into all of that later on. Now, if we just move even slightly further down the shoe on the mudguard, we do actually have this really nice light grey nubuck. If we then continue further back the upper, on both the lateral and medial sides, we do have that enlarged N on the midfoot. Now, this for me is definitely one of the most eye-catching features on the entire shoe. Probably one of the major reasons as to why I really like the 5740. The fact they've got this exaggerated end looks absolutely incredible. Now, this end does also sit atop more of that nubuck style of material, just like what we saw on the toe box. I didn't realise until I actually got the shoe out of the box, but once again, this does also include some 3M material, so if you do flash any kind of light on it, it's going to be reflective. But if we then just continue to move towards the actual heel portion of the upper, as you can see, we do have a combination of a few different types of material. So we have that light grey leather. Also, we have a pop of 3M once again, and around the ankle collar, we do have this grey perforated material. If we then just swing over to the actual heel of the shoe, as you can see at the very bottom of the heel, we do have that heel stabilizer. And then just above the actual heel stabilizer itself, wrapping right the way around the heel, we do have this really nice dark hairy suede material. I'll be honest, it feels really nice on the hand, feels really premium, and it actually feels really rugged as well, so absolutely no complaints. Just above that, we do have a slight peakage of the 3M once again, and at the very top of the heel, we do have this two-tone either suede or nubuck blend. This feels really premium under hand, love the two-tone aspect to it, and absolutely no complaints once again. I think the material quality is very, very good on this shoe. If we then just go ahead and move back into the center of the shoe, in the center, as you can see, we do have these flat white shoelaces. The laces themselves are actually fed through this really nice, creamy, hairy suede. Really premium touch. They could have kind of cheapened out here, but the material quality, once again, feels really decent. Now, the laces do actually sit atop this really nice nubuck style of tongue, and at the very top of the tongue, we do have that New Balance branding. Now, it is actually worth mentioning, now we've actually gone through all the materials on the right shoe in terms of the upper, that this does actually differ from the materials used on the left foot. Now, at face value, of course, they look very similar, but they are actually almost inverted versions of one another. So I'm just going to quickly break down all the materials used on the left foot so you know exactly what to expect. Now, around the toe box of the shoe, we do have this really nice long-haired suede which wraps right the way around the toe box. Very similar in terms of the colour tone to the right foot, but the material is just very different. So on the right foot, it's more of this short-haired suede, whereas on the left foot, as I said, much hairier. If we then move slightly further down to the mudguard, as you can see, we have that really nice light grey leather. On the right foot, it was a nubuck material. Personally, I would have preferred it if they'd just gone with leather on both shoes, but as it's almost like a slightly different version of the other shoe, I get why they did it. If we then move further back the upper, we see more of the exact same as what we saw on the right foot, so we have that enlarged N on both the lateral and medial side, once again including some of that 3M materials. As we move towards the heel, the materials are slightly different, so instead of having leather here like we had on the right foot, we have more of a nubuck material. We do see more of that, 3M material and that perforation around the ankle, as you can see. And then if we do move over to the actual heel, at the top portion of the heel, we do have that long-haired suede. Towards the bottom portion of the heel, we do have more of that short-haired suede. And then at the very bottom of the heel, we do have the heel stabilizer. They've just kind of done it a little bit different on each shoe. So where the short-haired suede is on this one, it's a long-haired suede on this one. And where the long-haired suede is on this one, it's a short-haired suede on this one.
Alrighty then.
But in general, the material quality of the upper really surprised me. One of the things that I did find was a little bit of a shortcoming was the tongue on this shoe is a leather material, and I do genuinely believe that the leather on the tongue of this shoe is much better than the nubuck tongue on this one. That's the only thing I've taken away from the upper that I'm genuinely not a big fan of. But other than that, the material quality is pretty good. Now, as I've already touched on the differences between the two shoes, if we actually now move on to take a look at some of the similarities. So if we move down to the actual midsole, as you can see, we have this really vibrant sail midsole. The midsole itself does actually include some end cap technology. According to New Balance, end cap is EVA foam with a polyurethane rim. This is supposed to add to the overall comfort and durability of the shoe. And even though, there is that EVA polyurethane blend, you can definitely see and tell that this shoe is immediately comfortable just right out the box. It feels really chunky. It leans into the aesthetic of what it is. This is very much a dad shoe, a comfortable everyday type of shoe. And from the limited time that I actually have had it on feet, absolutely zero complaints. Another benefit of having a midsole like this is it kind of adds a little bit of height as well. That's something I noticed. As somebody who falls under 6 feet, I can't complain. And then if we switch over to the outsole of the shoe, we just have a pretty standard black rubber outsole with the traction pattern. But if we then just move back up the shoe, I've already touched on the differences between the two tongues, but on both shoes, on the back of the tongue, we do have the Intelligent Choice 5740. Always love that detail about New Balance. It's probably one of my favourite things, if I'm honest. But if we then just move inside the shoe itself, in terms of the actual sock liner, as you can see, we do have more of that really nice tonal grey, in keeping with the rest of the upper. And in terms of the overall padding, it feels really nice, really well padded. It feels incredible on feet, I'm going to be completely honest. So in terms of the overall comfort of this shoe, zero complaints. As I've already touched on the midsole, there's plenty of cushion in there. The sock liner, plenty of cushion in there as well. So this is definitely a very, very comfortable shoe. If we then move even further into the shoe to the insole, as you can see, we do have this all black insole with the white New Balance branding. But if we now just quickly touch on the overall sizing of the shoe, as I mentioned at the start of the video, this is my very first pair of New Balances. So in a way, I was kind of in the dark knowing what size to go for. So I went with my natural true to size fit, which is a UK size 9. I feel like the sizing's pretty decent, no complaints on my part. I do have wide feet and I do make sure to make that evident in all of my reviews, because I do feel like in most cases, if you do have more of a narrower foot, you probably could get away with going a half size down. In this shoe, I probably wouldn't bother. I'd just go with your natural true to size fit, and I do believe that'll be the best outcome for you. As I always suggest, if there's any chance for you to try out the silhouette before buying, I would highly recommend that you do so, just so you can understand the best fit for you. I understand that this shoe isn't sitting around at most retailers, but if you just try out any of the other 5740s, get your overall size before you do go ahead and invest in this colorway. And other than that, I think we've just about wrapped up everything that I feel like is worth covering about this shoe. So if we now just go ahead and wrap up the video. So just to wrap up this video, in terms of my overall opinion on the shoe itself, in terms of rating, I'm going to give this shoe a pretty respectable 7 out of 10. Unfortunately, I feel like I kind of like the shoe a lot more on pictures than actually what I see in hand. The material quality is pretty good. It's a very comfortable shoe, but just in terms of how I feel about how it looks on me and how I would wear it, it's just not a shoe that I would actually go for. So I'm not going to actually be keeping this shoe in my collection. I'm going to be letting it go. There are far too many other shoes on my list that I'm wanting to get for this year. But I'd love to know your guys' overall opinions as well. Was this a must cop? Did you manage to cop on release, or are you looking to pick up on the aftermarket? Do make sure to leave me a comment in the comment section below. If you stuck around to this point in the video, I want to say a massive thank you. Do make sure to smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. Also, make sure that bell notification is switched on so you never miss a video. And I hope to see you all again in the next one.